Hello everyone and welcome back to Set 6, and today what we've got for you is some pretty interesting news. So, over the last 24 hours I think it is, there's been a pretty massive leak which has come via Nvidia GeForce Now. And there's a lot of high profile remasters and new up and coming games that have been listed in this leak. Now, there's a lot of games in there, so we're not going to go over all of them. But there are some absolutely premium bits of news that we need to look at. Don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe for future content. It does massively help the channel. Also click the bell if you want to get notified anytime that the new video comes out on the channel. But let's get straight on with it. So when you look at the list, there are a fair few highlights on there. You've got like Metal Gear Solid remakes and well, it looks like Metal Gear remasters potentially. You've got a remake of Resident Evil 4 in the list. You've got GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas being remastered, which we have already heard talk of. We've also got Crisis 4 in there. You've got Half-Life 2 remastered. But that's not what anyone that's watching this channel is particularly interested in. The things that we've got that relate to this channel, I'm going to start going through now. So first things first, we've got Kingdom Hearts 4. Doesn't really interest me, but it's on there. So those of you that are waiting for the next installment of the Kingdom Hearts series, you know, it's on the horizon. It's potentially on the horizon, because as with any leak like this, there's always the possibility that data's outdated. There's always the possibility that it's just wrong in general. It was always wrong. So you never know. But this is a pretty strong indication that there is a Kingdom Hearts 4 on the way. Now, we do have an unannounced title by Square Enix, which is in there. There's no name information or anything like that. No idea what that could potentially be. Possibly going to have to put a little bit more thought into that one, especially once we go over the next few things that are on this list. You'll see why I'm not really sure what the unannounced title could be. So moving on, you've got a Chrono Cross remaster in there, which a lot of people are going to be interested in. I'm not massive on Chrono Cross, but I know a lot of people do think it's, you know, a really good game. And then we get into Final Fantasy territory. So first things first, we've got the obvious one, which is Final Fantasy 16. That's a strong indication that the game's going to be coming to PC, potentially sooner rather than later. So, like, not long after we get the game on PS5, we might see it on PC. And the next one is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've said for a while that I do think it will make its way to PC and potentially to the Xbox. But my theory on this is that they won't announce that Remake is going to PC until Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 is announced and close. You know what I mean? Because it'd be a perfect marketing tool. Oh, you've played Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC. Well, the second part of that story is on PlayStation 5. Come and get it. It's just, it makes a lot of sense for them to do it that way. I don't think we'll ever see anything like equivalence, really. You're not going to see Part 2 drop on the same day it drops on PC or anything daft like that. So it makes sense for them to do it this way. Hook people in on PC with the first part of Remake, keep the second part exclusive up until Part 3 is due to come out, and then move it to PC. That's probably how they're going to operate. But the next two are pretty massive. The first one is a Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. Now, I would hazard that this is going to be very similar in style to the Pixel remasters. You know, it's going to be the same sort of thing. I think that they're not going to overly change anything. It's going to be quality of life. The music's going to get a big bump. The graphics will probably get improved a little bit. But beyond that, there's not going to be many changes. It's not going to be like a sweeping remake or anything like that. But Final Fantasy Tactics, one of the best games on the PlayStation 1. Part of that golden era of Final Fantasy games. So, yeah, massive hype if this turns out to be true. But then we get to the most interesting one, and this one ties into something else that we got a few months ago. Not long ago, we did hear that there's a Final Fantasy IX animated series potentially on the way. It's going to be aimed at children. It's going to fit that demographic because, well, we assume that, we're pretty certain that's going to be the case because of the company that was developing it. I did a video on it at the time. Go check it out if you haven't. But in this list of games, there is a Final Fantasy IX remake. Remake. Not remaster. Remake. Now I'm just going to let that one settle in for a minute, because the fact that they've used the term remake strongly indicates to me that this is going to be rebuilt from the ground up. They're not going to use any of the old assets or anything like that. It's going to be similar to the 7 remake. It's going to be similar to what we thought the 7 remake was going to be. Like, I do think the Final Fantasy IX remake, I mean, it's got to be pretty close. Like, not one for one, obviously. There's going to be expansion, there's going to be some slight changes, things that they'll improve. But I don't think they're going to pull any crazy shit like they have done with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it's, oh, it's actually a sequel. I don't think they're going to do anything even remotely close to that with Final Fantasy IX, because it's not got an expanded narrative like Final Fantasy VII has. It's not got a compilation like 7 has. It is very much a one-and-done story. Like, once you get to the end of that story, there isn't really a continuation point. So I personally feel that this is, like I say, it's going to be what we thought the 7 remake was going to be. The same game with expansions, little additions, quality of life, better graphics, better music. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting to see if they stick to turn-based. Very interesting to see if they stick with turn-based. I hope that they do. I feel that given the aesthetic of Final Fantasy IX, it harkens back to that older Final Fantasy game. So it'd make a lot more sense for them to stay in the turn-based kind of area. If they were to try and make it action like Final Fantasy VII. Because Final Fantasy VII, even though it was a turn-based game, once you got into like the compilation and things like that, there was always that element of high action. And I mean, even in the original game, like the cutscenes and stuff like that, there was always that action slant to things. So it made sense a little bit that they went with the system that they did in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it is a really good system. I don't know if that same system, implemented on a 9 remake, would work as well. Let me know about that one, let me know if I'm talking utter shit. But, yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster and a Final Fantasy IX Remake, as well as an unannounced title by Square Enix, and Kingdom Hearts 4. That's a pretty big leak, if it turns out to be true. Like I say, there is no guarantees that it's going to be true, but it's come directly from GeForce Now. It's like applications that they have made and things like that for games that they know are coming. It is extremely possible, and like a lot of the games on this list do kind of correspond with things that we know. We've got Bioshock 2022, we do know that a Bioshock 4 is potentially on the way. GTA remasters, we knew they were coming. Now, just as a quick caveat, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of these games are going to be coming to PC. It could mean that there is the possibility that these games come to PC. But the fact that there is even that suggestion indicates that they would be coming out to consoles at the very least. So like that Final Fantasy IX Remake, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come out on PC. It just means that there's the possibility that it will come out on PC. So yeah, there's a lot of different little avenues that this could go down. It could all turn out to be a complete hoax. But with the news of the Final Fantasy IX animated series, a 9 remake, it's not likely, it's not impossible either. Like 7 remake coming to PC, like I've said, that's going to happen closer to Part 2 dropping. A Tactics remaster, everyone loves Tactics. It would make sense for them to remaster it. It wouldn't be a massive amount. It wouldn't be easy, but it wouldn't be a massive amount of work. It wouldn't be like building a game from the ground up or anything like that. And like I say, we already know 16's on its way. We're pretty certain that it will drop on PC at some point as well. I mean, I think that's going to kind of be the template now for PlayStation. They're going to keep all their exclusives and then eventually let them filter out onto PC. And it makes sense. It brings people in. It brings people in, and it also, granted it's in the long term, but it gives PC gamers access to these games eventually. So yeah, I quite like it. But let me know what you think. Don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe for future content. It's just a quick video this. But more importantly than anything, have a great day.